What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Scorch the Fears. I am your host, Jonah Corchin, with the dope Cody Barton right now. Like an amazing guy, amazing integrator. I'm trying to make my phone not fall over. It's not going to work. I might have to turn off the Instagram live, but whatever. Um, whatever, it's going to be over there. This guy's amazing. He's an insanely successful businessman. I'm so happy that he's here. And yeah, man, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, Jonah, happy to be here, man. Always happy to help, support, and bring some insight to hopefully cut some learning curves for people. Hopefully,
That's it's gonna happen. Like anytime you speak, you cut some learning curves. I've seen it. So introduce people to the nobody who doesn't know who you are, basically, who's watching this. Just introduce everyone, like who you are, what's your business, what do you do, all of that stuff.
yeah. So, Cliff Notes version. My name's Cody Barton. I'm 28. I live here in Phoenix, Arizona, and have a few different businesses. From a real estate company that has a decent sized holding of properties, within there in the, 8-figure range of holdings of real estate. Have a media education company that's doing, over 10 million a year. Also owner of a virtual assistant company called Start Virtual that is pacing for this year, doing over probably 12 to 15 million this year. So few different things going on.
Those are for sure some big bucks. So okay, so wait, I didn't know about the media. Is that Subto?
No.
Oh, it's something
Nope.
different, something
Yeah.
completely different.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
secret.
No, it's not a secret. It's not a
Wait, what
secret.
is it?
We so we're essentially, I mean, but between like affiliates, we're that we grow our affiliate revenue through that company. But essentially, one of the things that I've always been excited about from like an early age is like helping show people alternative paths to making a living outside of going to college. And so basically, most of the products have been geared towards real estate, but we're, introducing some new stuff in 2023 to, teach people essentially how to, make six figures and in multiple different types of industries. And so that's the direction of what we're doing with that company. But it's kind of behind the scenes. You don't really see what we're doing with that company, but that's a thing.
Yeah, I've never heard of it, and I know you guys. I like see everything you're doing, damn near, or a lot of it. So I love it. Um, okay, my man. So obviously, incredibly successful entrepreneur, and I really wanted to start off this podcast that I like talking about fears. Right, I always started this way off,
Yeah.
like with Scorch the Fears. It's talking about like how somebody at your level, like going back a lot of it, going through your story, going through the fears that you dealt with when you were starting and throughout your entire journey and how you overcame those barriers. Because at least my personal opinion is that like fear is, I'd almost say 80% of it, like of the blocks usually. Like I mean mindset is almost is like 90%. And then I've noticed that fear, especially depending on how it's used, generally blocks you and is like the most common reason I've seen people not be successful is
Hmm.
some sort of fear. So I just wanted to start it off with like when you were starting out either in entrepreneurship or in real estate, whichever one you, I know you started earlier than real estate in entrepreneurship stuff. Tell me whichever one you think is a better place to start and like just talk about like the fears you were dealing with and how you eventually overcame them.
Yeah, I mean, I would say starting from the beginning makes the most sense because it helped me overcome a lot of the fears that I had. And the beginning for me, I mean, when I was ever since I was a little kid, I like when people asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I said I want to be rich. Like
Love it.
so that's there's that. Mainly because like I love cars. It was like a big thing for me. And like I would, see Lamborghinis and like all these exotic cars, and I always was like I want one of those. And my parents would always tell me like, oh, that's what rich people have. And I'm like, So then I just got into my head, and people would be like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I'm like, I want to be rich, because rich people have the cool cars.
Right.
So that was kind of early on what, kind of had me like excited about, being successful in life. But, I through high school, and to save all the details, I, did different entrepreneurial ventures, and, was making some decent money in high school, just doing different side hustles, buying and reselling, products online and whatnot. So a lot of different things. And so, for me, like my first, like, I guess, dive into like the fear around it. Cause then it was just fun. Like I was just doing that stuff while in school, and like, my parents
Hmm.
wanted me to go to college, and I was like, I was maybe going to do that. And then really I kind of got indoctrinated into entrepreneurship because I got a hold of Robert Kiyosaki's books, like
Classic.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and all of those. And so I read every single one of his books when I was 16. He has like freaking 15 or 20 of them. So I read through a lot of his books, and got a hold of Zig Ziglar. My parents had a whole CD set of like 50 hours of his content, and I listened to all of that
Mm.
multiple times. And so I read, shoot, 30, 40, 50 books from 16, 17 on entrepreneurship, business, and making money and things. And so I just got excited. And my first venture into real like entrepreneurship is I got into network marketing when I was 17. And so I guess, starting with where the fears, were for me, my fear wasn't as much of like, oh, like I'm, scared to talk to people, or, do things like that. Like my fear for me was, what if I'm not cut out to be like, what if I'm not
Mm.
successful? What if I can't be successful in business, or what if I can't be, uh, you know, be able to achieve the like lifestyle that I'm striving for? Like what if I'm not able to do that? And so those were like the fears that I more so had. And then then it's like the normal, I guess, more normal fears that some people have of like, I don't have any money. Like I was, I had made some money doing some stuff when I was in high school, but like I blew all of that because I didn't have any money management skills.
Right.
So like for me, it was like a fear of like, okay, am I good enough? Am I going to be able to figure this out? And do I have the resources available to be successful? Like those are the things that for me initially starting out that I worried about.
Yeah.
And then I had the chip on my shoulder because everyone told me I was stupid because I was like spending all my time like learning this entrepreneurship stuff, and instead of focusing on
Mm.
school and focusing on other things that people at 16, 17, 18 are focused on.
So I really like this because like this is really interesting to me. I didn't get into entrepreneurship until later, but I personally never had the like the whole thing where people were I had a really good network and nobody told me to my face that I couldn't do it. And
Yeah.
so I want to know like from your perspective, like how did you deal with that at such a young age? That's really young, 15, 16, 17, where people are being like you're being an idiot. I don't know if it was teachers or your parents or whoever, but like
Yeah.
how did you overcome that? Because that's a, you're young, so it's really hard not to listen to other people when you're that young, and b, um it's hard for most people in general. Like that stuff can infect your brain. So what did you do? Did like how'd you like tune that out?
Yeah, so I from a lot of the personal development books, like I read these books and they
Mm.
made sense. I'm like, Robert's making sense here in this Rich Dad Poor Dad book. Like this is making a lot more sense than the shit I'm learning in school. And so,
Right.
I like the books really, like I held to those a lot. And really it was like it was kids at school that really like, harassed me about the stuff. And then I had some teachers as well. I had my English teacher that I because we had to do a report on I can't remember what the report was for, but I did it. And this is, no political affiliations or anything like that, but I did it on Donald Trump because he was a billionaire. And like, this was back in 2011. So like, this is
So it
way
wasn't even
before.
political.
Yeah, there's nothing political. So it was just like business, and I was inspired by him because I read a book that Robert Kiyosaki and Donald Trump like co-authored together, and it was like Why We Want You to Be Rich. And I was like, wow, like if you're rich, like you get to help people, like, you can help people have jobs and create career opportunities and create all these cool things in life. And I was like, that's really inspiring. And so like I did like this book report on that. And then my teacher, hated rich people. So she just like tore me apart. And, it was just like, that's, those are piece of crap people. Like they just, rich people take advantage. Like there's literally a teacher in my high school telling me that
Interesting.
people like take advantage, rich people are bad basically. And I'm like, wow. Like I think back to that now and I'm like, our school systems are garbage, honestly. And anyways, the ones that I went through, but just public education. And so, that was my English teacher, just tarnishing goals of being a successful business owner, and saying I was dumb for not signing to do AP classes to get college credits to get ahead. And then I had another teacher, an economy teacher. I was reading Rich Dad Poor Dad in her class after I finished my work for the day. And so I was just like, reading and waiting for the class to be over. And she like commented, she's like, "What are you reading?" And then I was like, "Oh, like this book, like I don't remember which book by Robert Kiyosaki. It might've been Rich Dad Poor Dad or Cash Flow Quadrants, one of those." And she was just like, "Oh, that type of book. Oh, that's a freaking joke." And I was like, and so like I kind of got into it with her, and I was like, "No, like I'm learning, like I want to like be successful." And like there's a couple other kids that like commented, they're like, "Oh yeah, Cody always with these stupid ideas of hustles to make money and always just trying to figure out a way to make money like it's a bad thing." I'm like, fuck.
Right.
and
Right.
and so I just got into it with the teacher, and she's like, "Oh yeah, the only one that actually makes any money from those books is the author. You're just getting taken advantage of. You're just acting like a sheep and just buying it just like literally this is what this teacher was telling me."
Yeah.
And like I just remember this day so vividly, like that whole experience. And like I left school. Like I was so upset because like then she got like kids in class like teasing me for it as well.
Jeez.
And I literally got up and I looked at her and I said, "F you," and I walked out of the class and I walked to my car and I got in my car and I fucking left.
I love that. Like honestly, I think that's a good point though, of this sense of just like how bad, like how bad the education system is that like literally a teacher would be doing that, and B, the way to overcome it. And I really like that, in the sense just in general, like the way to overcome it is by finding a different environment. And that's a really good way to find a different environment, is just by reading like self-development books, being like, all right, screw everyone who's literally around me. I'm just going to read
Yeah.
these books of people who actually are rich and actually are doing what I want to do. These are the people I need to be listening to. Everyone who's downing me is not rich, so screw them. I need to freaking make it happen, and I just need to like put my my foot to the pedal and like freaking just make it happen, right? Like I kind of feel that, in the sense that's a really good way, if everyone's telling you something, to just be like, no, I know these books, this makes sense to me, I'm freaking doing it, like let's just get it. And I like it in the sense that I think the right answer is like just getting out of whatever environment you happen to be in, when if it's a bad environment. There are other people who've been on the show who've told me that, where they were like in terrible environments for
Yeah.
themselves. So okay, so you did it by reading. That was the first one, is you did it by reading
Yeah.
books. You like did the self-development. Let's go through it a little. So then you graduate high school, or what was your first business venture?
So I got into network marketing, a company called Vima. And so I got into this company and I like learned, I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I could make money with this thing." I'm like,
Right.
hell yeah, let's do it. Because all my side hustles were kind of like, not things that were like long term. Like it was like buying and reselling just, like bracelets and different stuff online.
Right.
It wasn't, anything that was going to make me rich. And so I got into this network marketing company, and I did, when I was 17, I just became a senior in high school. So it was the beginning of my senior year. And this will tell you a lot about me. Like when I get all in on something, how much I like go all in, was I got into this and I was like, and I listened to an audio by Darren Hardy because he's a big proponent of network marketing. And so he talked about, he's like, if you're even going to do this type of a business, you're going to commit 4 years or you don't even do it at all. You're wasting your time. And I was like, okay, well, I need to commit 4 years to this thing then. I'm like, I'm not going to college then. I'm going to do this thing. And so I was just listening to that. I went from having like 5 or 6 different classes in high school that I needed, and then like 3 of those I needed for and I was ahead in credits because I took some extra classes my freshman and sophomore year, and so by my senior year I didn't need all these classes. I was taking a couple extra ones at that point because I'm like, okay, well, I need to go to college now. My parents are making me, and so I didn't even discuss it really with my parents. I was just like, I'm gonna go make money with this network marketing deal. And I dropped my math class because I didn't need it to graduate. I dropped my I had another English class because you needed like this special English class for the college that I was going to go to. Dropped that class, and I literally got down to I had 2 actual classes and then 2 just like free periods where I just would like sit in a classroom and do like my homework because I was like, I don't care about college anymore. This is what I'm doing, and so.
I like that.
So that was the beginning of my senior year, and I just went ham with like working this business, and I recruited a lot of people, and it got to a point where I had like over 100 people from my high school signed up for this company. I ended up getting called to the
Damn,
principal's
nice.
office and getting in trouble, and they were like, "You can't keep getting all these kids into this thing," and like
That's so
it,
funny.
yeah, so it became like a whole thing at our high school, and it was it was funny because I actually got voted most likely to be a billionaire from like our high school graduating class because I had like like everyone just stoked about making money at our school, and I was just getting in trouble all the time for it. And
I love that though. That's crazy. That's so funny that you were like you literally were getting in trouble with the principal's office because you were just starting a business in the high school, like getting
yeah,
people
yeah, it was
signed up for
distracting
Evo.
too many people because people were talking about it in all the different classes, and it just became like a thing. And so, long story short with that, like by the time I was graduating high school, I was making over 2 grand a month, which obviously now is
Woo!
nothing, but like 2 grand a month when you're
Back then,
17, like it's like
pretty solid.
not bad.
That's above minimum wage, like, and you're like
Yeah.
actually own a business, so that's pretty cool. Um,
Yeah.
I want to quickly go back because I'm reminding just to the fear of. You said like the main one that you'd say was the fear of not making it, like possibly not making it.
Yeah.
Where do you think that came from? Do you think that was from all these people like telling
For
you
sure.
can't do it?
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like talk a little bit more about that in the sense of like was it the fact that it like if they were right you would just be so mad or like that's like
That I
what
would just
was
be
it
like
exactly?
totally like embarrassed, right? It's like
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing. But upon like starting in that network marketing business, all of my friends, like all of my like closest guy friends, I was no longer friends with within 3 to 6 months of me doing that. All of them said I
Damn.
was stupid, was making fun of me, talking crap behind my back, telling
Damn.
people, I was scamming people, like every bad thing you could think of. And then it made me become a loner because I was dedicated to being successful with this thing. And so I had just a very small group of people, and then I had new mentors that I had met that were in their 20s and 30s, and like I'm over here in high school having to, just trug through every day, and I was hating it. Like my last 2 quarters of high school was miserable for me. Like it was absolutely miserable. Every single day I went to school, I was hating my life there. And so that was a big thing is like it kind of like polarized me of like this is what I'm doing, and like and it wasn't even on purpose. Like I didn't like my friends that were my friends, I didn't, if they didn't want to be involved, I didn't care. I just wanted to be friends, but they just didn't like that I was doing something different and trying to, shake
Interesting.
things up and, be different. And so I found support and, having mentors, finding new mentors that could, encourage me and coach me up. And then a ton of personal development. I was reading and listening to audios constantly on the way to school. I had audios in my Jeep that I would listen to on the way home from school. Like I was just I was physically at school. I was mentally checked out. I wasn't even there anymore the
Right.
last 6 months of the year.
how did you find mentors so young? Like, what did you do?
So when I joined that business, there were people that were like in their 20s and 30s just making like six figures, seven figures, and like I just found a way to reach out to them and like
Mm,
ask them for guidance. And a lot of times, like what I found is when you're genuine about like your interests and like you're consistent and you show up and you work hard, like older people generally like to latch on to people like that. I've had a lot of great mentors in my life that have latched on to me and really poured into me a lot. And so I think from having those experience, those people really have helped me a lot. And it was because I showed up consistently. I did what I said I was going to do. They gave me advice. I did, and I followed through on that advice. And I was an action taker. Like there's nothing worse that somebody could do than to like get advice from a mentor and then not take the advice. Like I call those people ask holes. They come and ask for advice and then they just don't do anything with it. And then they like come back 6 months later and ask you for the same advice. I'm like, dude, it's like Groundhog Day every time we talk. You don't take action on anything we talk about. It's the same conversation.
right. I know there are people who hit me up who are like that for sure. Like every once in a while, there's one guy who like actually uses the advice, and then
Yeah,
when they
and it's
show
just, like,
me,
refreshing, and you're like, "Dude, yes, like, what else can I help you with?" Right? Like,
right,
you wanna continue to pour into those type of people.
100%, because I'm like, okay, now let's do it. Like now I see
Yeah,
that you're doing something. Let's like make some stuff happen. So
yeah.
I love it. Awesome. So, okay, continuing on with the story, eventually graduate high school. You're in MLM, or the
Mhm.
BEMA.
Yeah.
How does that go? What happens next?
It's great. It turns into, over the next 4 years, um, because I committed 4 years, right? Over the
Right.
next 4 years, I built a team of
Wait,
over.
sorry, hold on. Let me interrupt you for a second. When you
Yeah.
say you committed for years, I mean, like, if you don't sign a contract and it's not like you sign a contract and you're
No,
enslaved,
I
right?
made a mental contract.
Right. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about for a second, was just like, how did you end up doing that where it was a mental contract? I think I've made a mental contract basically with myself that I'm gonna do this forever, more or
Yeah,
less, because I love
yeah,
it so much.
yeah.
So like I want to know, like, how does one even make a mental contract? What do you mean? And like because I think that would be a powerful tool for somebody who's just starting to use, like especially if when you're feeling down, like the idea of mental contracts in general. Like I kind of want you to expand on like what that means, what's the idea behind that, and like how one could use that.
So what I did is I always like to work things backwards, and so what I did was, well, Darren Hardy. I was just like, I just was listening. I was like, Darren Hardy. So here's the thing: Darren Hardy became a millionaire by 21, had a
Mm,
$25 million company at 25,
damn.
and he's telling me things that I should do. So I'm like, well, shit, I should probably listen. I want to do that. So I just listened blindly, honestly, because he had what I wanted. And so the advice isn't listen blindly. The advice is like if someone has what you want and you get advice from them, just shut up. Your opinion doesn't really matter. Like do what they told you to do. And so like that was my thing. I'm like, I'm just going to subscribe to people that have the things that I want or have accomplished things that I want. And I'm just going to listen to them and not really care what anyone else tells me because they don't have what I want. And so that's when he talked about like committing 4 years and I gave myself, I'm like, okay, like in 4 years, I can look at this and so in this particular company, I'm like, if there's different ranks, right? Like, at certain levels of sales volume, you're driving through the company. And so I'm like, if I only like rank advanced, if I only went up, a couple ranks a year for 4 years, in 4 years, I would be making 100 grand a year. Would it be worthwhile to spend 4 years to get to making 100 grand a year or go to college, get $50,000 in debt to then graduate and then maybe be making 50? I'm going to take the bet on the 4 years for the 100,000. Even if I don't make it, I at least gave it my best shot and at least I
Right.
committed. I could always go back to college. So like that was kind of where I figured it out. And like in any business, if someone commits dedicatedly and actually takes consistent action for 4 years, you should be making six figures. And if you're not, you're just a lazy piece of shit. Like if you worked for 4 years straight and you actually worked and you know, course corrected, you read books consistently and you tried to be better every year, and in 4 years, if you're not making 100 grand plus a year and in the same type of business. Now, I'm not saying like if you change your business every 6 months like a lot of
Right.
people do, but if you're in the same business for 4 years, then you're just like you just aren't fucking all there in the head or something, because you should be able to get to that point. I am 100% and you know, a believer of that. Like really within a couple of years you should be able to, if you are taking consistent action, you're driving forward, not just like a side hustle, kind of like, you know, tiptoeing around the thing and like, yeah, like I'm doing this thing on the side. It's like, no, this is what I'm doing. Like
Yeah.
the commitment level has to be there
I was gonna
to,
say in real estate also, I feel like it's like 2 years. Like if you're actually like full time doing it for two
I
years,
say,
I
or to
like
temper expectations.
yeah, like I'm like with real estate, I'm like, this is like I'd say 2 years, right? Like if
It
like
should
I
be.
think it's impossible like not to at least make 100K just because like you could I feel like you could in real estate you can accidentally get one deal and accidentally make 100K even if you like suck at everything. Like I
Yeah.
don't know, like that's how crazy real estate can be, and that's like
Yeah.
the power of consistency in general of like if you're willing to put something into it and just follow, you just listen to millionaires. Like I'm gonna rant a little bit just because I
Yeah.
you're getting me ranting a little bit in the sense of like that's literally I think one of the things that I did better with Subto than like anybody else was that I consistently went in, asked questions of pace, and then I just did it. I did it. I didn't really even think about it. I was like, sometimes I didn't really think about whether it was good for me or not, but like I still did it. And I'd say like 90% of the time it ended up working out and doing what needed to be done because he's at like such a higher level than me. And like I really feel that with Jamil too, because I'm an Astro student, like just like listening to people who have what you want and then just doing the formula the way they say it, not just like doing it your way, which is the
Yes.
wrong way. I guarantee you your way is the wrong way because otherwise you would be rich.
You would be the
Th-
millionaire and not them, right? Yeah.
Right,
Oh
exactly.
god.
And it would be like, and like you got to do it their way. And then once you've made some money, try tweaking it a little bit,
Yes.
maybe to like
Yes.
make it your way, right? Like that's what I've done with like my business now is like there's like certain things where I'm like, okay, I'm a teensy bit different. Let me try this out. And then
Yeah.
it ends up working for me, right?
Yeah.
So like 100% guys, like that's what you need to do. Like in like just find like I think that's almost always the first step for whatever you want to do is like find a mentor of some sort. And if they give you keep trying people, because I know some people just won't even respond, but I'd say just keep
Yeah.
trying people and then the person who does respond immediately do whatever they say.
Yes.
Immediately. I feel like
That's
that's just it.
that's really the thing, and that's where, I mean, and that's what I did, and that's why, you know, I just followed, and that's where I was like, you know what, I'm giving this thing 4 years, and it's like, you know, people are so quick to like think that they're not like it's failing because they're not getting results. Like, no, did you think you were just gonna get rich in 60 days? Like what? Like, I don't like you think with the 20, 30, 40, 50 years
Oh
of
God.
programming of like negative habits, eating shit food, not exercising, not listening to personal development, not taking consistent action on a daily, regular basis, no business skills, no sales skills, no marketing skills, no operation skills. You're going to magically get started into this business and be a millionaire in 60 days. Like that's what people think. And it's like, you have no skills and you have no business coming in and having that type of expectation. And that's like one of the other things when people are like, well, how long should it take me? I'm like, I don't know. Your past is a fucking train wreck. So your
Right.
future can be different, but you have to temper expectations with, if you don't have any skills to, you know, bring to what you're doing, just commit 4 years and be like, you know what? I'm going to be great at this in 4 years. And so
I
that's
love
what
it.
I kind of take the mindset at, you know, just going fast forward to today. I'm like, I just want to be a student of the things that I'm doing. I want to learn and stay a student and stay curious and stay, you know, trying to consistently be better myself and in all areas. And that's, you know, I'm going on a tangent here, but you know,
No, it's okay. No, I like tangents. I brought you on that tangent. I like going on tangents away from the story if I think it's valuable. So now we'll keep going. So you made the 4 year commitment, 4 year contract in your head. Basically, it doesn't even sound like it almost sounds like you were just like like your mentor just was like, all right, 4 years, and then you're like, all right, done. 4 years,
I was
boom.
like, sure,
Not
I'm
even
down.
not even thinking about it, which is dope. So keep going. So you start doing it for 4 years, and what happens?
Yeah. So I'll just go long story short. Within those 4 years, I built an organization. I had like 2,200 people in my downline in my organization, and I
Mm-hmm.
was doing almost 6 million a year in revenue by 20.
Woo!
So
Hot
was
damn.
so was doing good, and I had teams all over the world. And I mean, back in 2013 and 14, I spent 6 months in Norway and Sweden and Austria and doing events and
Hot
conferences and
damn.
putting on stuff out there. Spent a bunch of time in 2014 in Australia and New Zealand. I had teams in Sydney and Brisbane and Auckland, New Zealand. And so I traveled a lot of the world in 2013 and 14, doing events in a lot of different states and putting on events, from doing everything from like the putting the team together, planning, organizing invites and everything in different states and countries, from groups as small as 10 to groups as big as 3,000 that attend to some of these trainings that I would put on. And so I became I was like the top 50 income earner in that company, and the youngest one as well in their top 50 rankings. And so I had so I was making six figures, good 6-figure income at 18 to 21. And it was awesome, and I made a bunch of money, and I learned a lot of the great lessons on leadership, recruiting, training, and like managing and organizing people. And so those lessons have served me dearly to this day, and had a lot of great mentors. But I didn't have any mentors teaching me money management. So unfortunately, I blew all the money. I spent everything that I made, I spent on like designer clothes and like watches. And
Mm,
like I was 21, living in a 4,000 square foot house with 2 cars, and I was traveling the world like 4 to 6 months of the year. So it's like unnecessary house, unnecessary car expenses, bought them both brand new because I didn't know. I wished I was buying real estate because I was making good money in 2011, 12, and 13 when the market was down. So it's like
right.
all of these things that I should have done, shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? But I didn't have any financial mentors in my life. And so what ended up happening, the company ended up shutting off their network marketing model and like restructuring. And so like from every Thursday, I was used to getting anywhere from like a $2,000 to $5,000 check being deposited in my account every Thursday, direct deposit. Just one Thursday, it didn't show up, and then it never showed up again. And then I had to sell both my
Mm,
cars, and paid just to get out of them. Had to sell
damn.
everything in my house that I was living in, and had to break the lease, move back to my parents back at home, and literally had everything go to zero. And then I had all the haters that shut up because I was making a bunch of money came back out of the woodworks, just talking shit online again about
Damn.